Hello again, and welcome to Ballin with Roy and Edwyn. I am Roy S. Johnson, and I'm with my son, Edwyn. How you doing today, Edwyn?
I'm fine, Daddy. How are you?
Good, good. Once again, lots going on in the world of sports, lots to talk about, particularly with some of your favorite teams. But first, let's start talking about Tiger Woods. This week, we've got the PGA Championship going on. Clearly, one of the greatest golfers, one of the greatest comeback stories ever of anybody. Only focusing on the majors after a horrific car accident that almost cost him his life and his leg. As we know, he played in the Masters, didn't do well, but finished. Just miraculous that he could play 4 rounds and finish walking. He's playing at the PGA Championship. He has 15 major championships. The record, 18. Jack Nicklaus has it. He's at the Southern Hills Country Club at the PGA. No one's really expecting him to win, but he's really focused. He's probably in better shape than he was at the Masters. I look for him to again make the cut and play through all 4 rounds. The Tulsa World reached out to Jack Nicklaus, asked him about Tiger, because when Jack was 46, now the same age as Tiger, he did win a major championship. But Jack basically said that Tiger has a little bit more fire than Jack had at that age, because Jack didn't miss any time. I mean, he pretty much played continuously well into his 40s, whereas Tiger missed years, partly because of the scandal, but also because of his injuries. And he says because of that, Tiger is showing a little bit more fire, a little bit more energy, and probably playing with more of a sense of urgency than Jack did. So it's good to see Tiger do this. It's also interesting that the PGA this year was once again being played in my hometown at Southern Hills Country Club. Last year, the senior PGA Tour was there. And as you know, I have an affinity for Tulsa. Interesting about Southern Hills Country Club was when I was there in high school, I went to a predominantly white high school, but there were 2 African Americans in my class. That country club, we wanted to have a class party at the club. And in the 1970s, half a century ago, Southern Hills did not allow us to have a party because of African Americans in our class. A lot has changed since then. A lot has changed in your lifetime. Not only is Tiger probably the headliner at the PGA there are African American members at Southern Hills, and also playing in the field this year is a guy named Wyatt Worthington, an African American club pro from Ohio, who was inspired by Tiger 20 years ago, and here he is now playing in the PGA Championship. He also played in it last year, and he is one of 20 club pros, guys who aren't on the pro tour, but who get to try to qualify for the PGA Championship. One of 20 club pros in this field. So a lot has changed. So we really want to root for Tiger Woods to just stay healthy, have a good showing, and also root for Wyatt. Club pros don't generally do very well in the PGA Championship, but the fact that he's in it is something to cheer for. So let's go on. I know you want to talk about your Ravens. I mean, it looks like they're going to do a 30 for 30 on the Ravens. What do you think about that? Are you excited about that? And tell me what you think about whether or not they will show the full story about the Ravens and just all the good, the bad, the ugly of your favorite team.
Well, of course, I'm excited. And when you say the good, the bad, and the ugly, believe me, they're going to show all of that. If some of you remember, Ray Lewis got into an incident that year in Atlanta, and again, he was pretty much he was not guilty of it. The only thing he got was obstruction of justice. I'm not going to get into the details of all of that. I'm just going to say that is different between murder. People still think what they think of him today. I share a birthday with him. My birthday was last Sunday. I share a birthday with my favorite football player of all time, for one. But that team is arguably the greatest defense of all time. And again, you can talk about the 85 Bears. You can talk about Seattle's Legion of Boom. You can talk about 2016 Broncos. You can talk about the Patriots. But for me, I'm going to say they're the greatest. And again, that was at a point in time where defenses were still winning championships. Of course, that has changed tremendously throughout the years now. But I mean, just that whole run again, Ray Lewis, Brian Billick as our coach, Trent Dilfer as a quarterback, Jamal Lewis at running back, and so forth. So I'm definitely going to really enjoy it. And again, when it does happen, we're going to talk about that too. A lot of people are going to have just many different opinions on that, of course. But I'm just looking forward to it because again, there's so many documentaries of teams that I like, but I think this might be the first one, honestly, on my favorite team. So I'm just
It's
looking
interesting
forward
you
to that.
talk about defenses. Why do you think that defenses don't rule anymore? I mean, obviously defenses are important.
Yeah,
You see a lot of drafting this year on defense, especially end rushers, edge rushers. They put
yeah,
a premium on that. It used to be linebackers. Linebackers used to be your top
yeah.
guys. Now it's the edge rushers. But why haven't we had a dominant defense in the NFL in almost in almost as far back as you can remember, going back to Baltimore?
Well, the emphasis, because just like with basketball, football has changed. In basketball, there are more 3-pointers now, and there are centers shooting now. Now it's like just the offense is just so much spread out. So many teams want to throw the football as opposed to old school pounding it, being physical. I think that is a part of it too. And even though there are athletes on both sides of the ball too, now, in terms of the edge rushers, I think also with the D line too, because if you look back for the last, I would say 15 years, a lot of defensive linemen have been going in the top 5, top 10, even the interior, the D tackles and so forth inside. A lot of them have become more quicker, faster, athletic, as well as stronger too. So a lot of times you're going to get that inside rush too, as well as the outside. But I would just say too, just in terms of one athleticism, because when you look at a quarterback like, again, Tom Brady, and you look at a system like Belichick and what Nick Saban's able to do, he's able to run the football, he's able to throw the football, he's able to have defense. I just think that now it's like, okay, you put more attention now, even more. So you're putting in 30, 40, 50 plays because now it's always been more mental than physical, but now even more so mental too. You're looking to catch teams off balance, which is part of what I think Seattle tried to do, which is why they lost to the Patriots a couple years ago. So that's a part of it too. But I will tell you, the last good defense, which wasn't that long ago, was Seattle. Now again, the 6 championships that the Patriots won, there was a defense too, and that was off of Belichick's scheme. It wasn't so much great players like Ray Lewis, like Ed Reed, but you still had guys that pretty much did the job at the right place at the right time too. So there was still some defense, but I think, and even so with Tampa had arguably, I think, the number 1 defense the year that they won the Super Bowl also too. But it's not as big though. It's not, this defense is going to kill this team, they're going to lock this team down more. So it's not so much that anymore though.
And maybe they need better marketers. They need somebody to name these defenses so we remember them, like the Legion of Doom and all those kind of things. So maybe they need some better people in the marketing department to come up with some names of these defenses so that they will be remembered. Okay, let's move on to the NBA. And before we start talking about the playoffs, it's been a pretty quiet off season for coaches. Obviously, we know that the Lakers, your favorite team, are in search for a coach. Sacramento was in search for a coach, but we haven't seen a lot of coaches be fired and a lot of searches. But what's going on? Can you update us on your favorite team, the Lakers? Tell me what's going on. Jeannie Buss, one of the owners, had something to say about their disappointing season. She said, when you spend that much money, basically, she said, look, you expect better results. You expect to go to the playoffs. She said, I'm not happy. I'm not satisfied. When you have the owner coming out and saying something like that, and you still don't have a coach, I mean, that puts a lot of pressure, not just on your GM and on the people who are hiring, making this hire, but also on the players. And of course, that falls squarely on the shoulders of LeBron James. I think she was speaking directly to LeBron. So, Edwyn, what is the state of this team? If you're a coach now, do you want to step into this situation and try to respond to an owner who has come out publicly and said they're not happy?
This is just another example of no accountability in the franchise, and now it's starting up with the owner, with Jeannie Buss, starting up in the front office. First of all, you entrusted this team to Rob Pelinka. Your front office put this team together. They deserve majority of the blame, which goes all around, but they deserve it because they put the team together. You thought that a couple of older role players were going to be enough to get in. Again, I would say that the big thing right there too is that Anthony Davis not being healthy. Again, we've said this many times. If he is healthy, they make the playoffs. But nobody is taking accountability. Jeannie is not. Rob Pelinka's not. LeBron isn't. Westbrook isn't. Anthony Davis isn't. I think again Frank Vogel is gone, but he still was trying to be like, oh, we're gonna be better. So you can say, but it's all over though still. And I don't understand. Yes, you put the money in to get the team, but it's not just about the money that wins a championship. It's not just. It's about the players, the actual players, the coaching, etc. You don't have that. And again, you don't have a coach right now. So are you going to, like I said, are you going to get Mark Jackson? Because I know LeBron wants him. I think they needed. There are a couple of guys. I know there are a couple of guys too. Now, just to clarify, Doc Rivers is going to be in Philly next year. That's been done. So that's out there to try to get him. This whole rumor of getting Phil Jackson, even though this isn't a full rebuilding stage, that doesn't make sense either. So again, I hope they get Mark Jackson. But again, there needs to be accountability. But you can't. She's getting frustrated. Okay, so let a coach. Put accountability on your office for putting that team together. And then you say it's on LeBron. LeBron is a star. I get that, but here's the thing, though. You saw three guys. You saw a ideal big three that is just up there. Put it on Anthony Davis, who was supposed to be the best player on that team, and he is not because he cannot stay healthy. Put it on Russ because he's not going 100 miles per hour like he used to, like he has throughout his career, being a maniac, as some people say, the criticism, whatever. He goes 100 miles per hour, intensity over there, attacking the basket. But don't just put it on LeBron. I know it's his team. I know this and that. But again, the days are over. He's going to still probably play at a very good high level next year. But it's not on him anymore, and that's been proven. So,
I know what Jeannie Buss needs to do. Jeannie Buss needs to get on the phone and call Edwyn Lawrence Johnson, bring him to the front office, bring some energy, bring some ideas, bring some accountability. Somebody get me Jeannie Buss's number, because she needs to call Edwyn Lawrence Johnson, bring him into that front office, and bring some sanity to that place. I mean, you got a plan that's as strong as anything that I've ever seen. So I'm just somebody get a note to Jeannie Buss.
No, yeah, because it just looks like what it looks like to me. What it looks like to me is just something similar to the Dallas Cowboys. Now, again, I know you don't follow everything as much as I do. So, again, that's your team. But again, this is a similar situation to.
Yeah, don't remind me, right?
Yeah, to Jerry Jones. That's all I'm going to say. And again, I don't know how much she learned from her father, Dr. Buss, but clearly during that time, you look at the players that they had around Magic, Kareem, Byron Scott, James Worthy. You look at the players they had around Shaq and Kobe. Again, Derek Fisher, Robert Ory, Rick Fox, the list goes on. You try to get players like that, I understand that. And again, you have young players too. But of course, there's going to have to be major changes to the roster. You know that.
They also had a system that worked, and they had a chemistry, and they had one of the greatest players of all time, certainly in Earvin Magic Johnson. All right, so let's talk about this year's playoffs. They're really just getting started. No surprises really in the first games in each round. You had two teams who were the visiting teams coming in who had just finished their conference semifinals, so didn't have much time to prepare. They were playing on the road, so both the home teams, Miami and Golden State, won their first games. But how do you see these shaping up? I mean, Jimmy Butler clearly seems energized. He had a solid game for Miami in game. Expect him to be consistent throughout that series. But how do you see this series shaping up? And is Butler going to be the main guy for Miami throughout this whole series?
Well, that's the question. You just said consistent. Can he stay consistent like that the whole series? Because I don't think anybody expected him to get that 41 points. If you look at Kevin Durant, didn't do that. Neither did Giannis. Those are the top three guys in the game. But the fact that Jimmy Butler, who has always been, again, he's a 5-time All-Star. He's always been a good player, but borderline between good, great, that's the thing. But the fact that he dropped 41 points, I mean, that definitely says it. So can he stay consistent? And again, you have a hero in Tyler Hero for one. You have Bam Adebayo. So you have other guys that need to help him too. And again, they're going up against the best defense in the league in Boston. They have their superstars. Again, Defensive Player of the Year, Marcus Smart was out. Al Horford, both of those guys were out. So I think that was a big part of it too. Don't get me wrong. And I think, again, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, they're going to have to come hard, for the next game, because I think They can't even 2-0, they can't fall behind. If they lose a game, they have to come back and win the next one. But
Yeah,
you're
you
talking
mentioned about Al Horford and Marcus Smart not playing in game one. Clearly, that's a key factor. You can't go into a playoff series without two of your top, 7 or 8 players and expect to win on the road. But we do understand that they could be back for game two. So I expect a totally different game two. I expect an energized, a little bit rested now Boston Celtics team. I expect a team with a solid game plan and 2 players just itching to get back out there in Al Horford and Marcus Smart. So game 2 will probably be a little bit different. I think it's going to be tighter. I could even see Boston winning this game, taking it back to Boston, tied at 1 game apiece. Either way, I think this is going to be a solid series, a fun series, and possibly a long series as well.
Yeah, no, I think it's going to game 7 because, again, there's going to be offense involved, but it's going to be so much physicality, so much defense. Because, again, Miami has always played great defense for the last 3 years too. So regardless, it's gonna be tough on both of them, but it's going to definitely go to a game 7. I don't see it going anything under less than a game 7.
Okay. Out west, that could also happen again. I mean, Dallas is hot, right? Dallas is feeling itself. They are feeling the opportunity now to sort of take out, they're not the defending champions, but certainly the Golden State Warriors have championship pedigree, and Dallas feels like they're poised to go through them and get to an NBA Finals. But Steph Curry came out in game 1 and showed like, wait, you're gonna have to knock this crown off my head. I'm still the man. He was laughing about looking at so many players on the court and realizing how young they were, that the other stars were like 23 years old, and trying to think of himself at that age. And now he comes out in game 1 with 21 points, 12 rebounds, and 4 assists, leading the team in all of those categories. First time he'd done that in the playoffs. I mean, he tied for the lead in assists, but he came out showing like, look, I don't care how you young bucks feel. You think you're ready for this? You got to take it from me. So do you think Dallas is going to be able to upset Golden State in this series? And how long do you think it'll go?
No, I don't think they'll upset them. And I know it was game 1, but it really discouraged me of thinking, because I used to think it was going to go to a game 7. I'm starting to think hopefully they'll be lucky to win maybe 2 games. And that's just because, again, for them to be able to play small ball and spread the floor, yes, that kept them in the last series. It can keep them in. They got good looks, but they could not hit any shots. And again, if they just put it on Luka, those other guys are not able to hit shots and really step up. That's what's going to be the problem. Because again, minus the whole Steph, Clay, Jordan Poole, again, you're talking about those are the greatest shooters, but they can shoot. And they don't really have a big presence to attack them, because the weakness of Golden State is in the paint with big men. And they're not really going that. They're trying to spread it out too. But the problem is they cannot hit. Well, I'm not going to say they can't, but they didn't hit any shots. And I think if they're going to rely on that, the series is going to be shorter. That's going to be the problem, because they're eventually going to be able to defend Luka, especially if you were to just put Draymond on him man to man, because there's really no other threat. So you don't really have to play zone. So if that's the case, even if Luka gets 40 or 50, Golden State could still win the series.
Mm-hmm. But let's talk about Luka. I mean, I love watching superstars emerge on the playoff stage. I mean, clearly he's been one of the best players in the league pretty much from the day he arrived. But watching Luka go against Steph is really something that, even if you're not a pure basketball fan, you want to watch this. You're talking about a superstar from this era going against an emerging young player, and that's what playoff basketball is really about. It's about the teams, but whether the stars on each team can really step onto this stage, into this light, and be the players that they are paid to be the players that they are during the regular season. I think for anybody who's even a peripheral fan, to watch Luka in this series will be telling. I think he's one of the great young players in the game. I love watching him play. And you say there's no other threats, but he's clearly one of those players that also makes his teammates better. He seems to know when to shoot, knows when to pass, he clearly seems to be a great leader, an inspiring leader. Players seem to feed off of his energy, off of his confidence. I mean, so basically, he's a big version of Steph. Steph does the same thing, and so watching these two guys go at each other, don't take your eyes off of Luka. We saw Luka step up and really take control of the conference semifinals against Phoenix, and I think you're going to see Luka get his game back, get his energy back, and really take this series at least 6 games. I mean, I do think it's important for Dallas to come out and make a significant statement in Game 2. They really were kind of blown out in Game 1. That can't happen again, because then Golden State's going to go into Dallas and at least win 1 game, and that series would probably be over in 5, no more than 6. So I think it's important for Dallas to win Game 2, at least to show that they are in it and make it close. But I think it's important for them to win Game 2 to establish, okay, folks, this is going to be a series.
Yeah, no, they can't fall behind either. They have to win the next game, because Golden State is very capable of winning in Dallas. They're definitely going to win at home, but they can win. I think it doesn't matter for them in this series, home or away. They can beat them. So Dallas has to win. And now in terms of the comparisons to Steph, because Luka's called Baby Bird. And again, doesn't shoot like Larry Bird. But I would say in terms of energy, competitiveness, I think that's the comparison though too. But also, he really has been compared more to LeBron than Steph. And again, because if you look at him, he is pretty big for his position, because he is 6'7" around, I would say 230, 235 or something like that. And again, he did look like he was a little bit out of shape though, because I think he started getting gas when he was getting picked up at half court. But in terms of just size and strength, now again, he's not as athletic as LeBron, but he definitely has that burst. He can't jump as high as LeBron though too, but he can definitely get to the basket. You know, definitely has some upper body strength on him too, which again is going to cause a little trouble for the Warriors too. But again, they have the defense, they have the personnel, they have Draymond and all. But I think again, he can get 50 next game, the game before that too. So he's going to do what he does. It's just a matter of the guys around him being to do that, because you talk about him making other guys around him better. That may be true when he's on the court, because I think he more so leads by example, not so much a vocal leader. But again, when he is on the court, some guys, they shoot, they make some shots, but they mostly let him do all the work. When he is off the court, it's trying to get guys into a rhythm. And that's what's going to be the problem for them. That's what's going to dictate the series. Can all these other guys who at times do make shots, but can they really make shots, you know, to just get the attention off of him, or when he needs rest, when he's in foul trouble and so forth?
I love the comparison to Larry Bird. I think he's a much better shooter than LeBron. Certainly, he's got size and strength. So I think the LeBron comparison is less correct than the Larry Bird comparison. But of course, you're talking about one of the greatest players of all time. So that's a pretty high bar comparison to make. But as a shooter, he certainly has the same sort of capabilities as Bird. Now it's just seeing if he can do it on this stage. We clearly saw Larry Bird elevate his game during the playoffs, playing against some of the greatest players of his generations. For that comparison to stick, Luka's going to have to do it on this stage starting this year. Going to be some great playoff series. I love how they've gotten started out. No surprises. Let's see how they play out for the next few days, and we'll talk about it again next week. Edwin, as always, it is a pleasure to chop it up with you and talk about sports, talk about the things that are going on, talk about the people, some of the silliness, the craziness, and the greatness, particularly around your favorite teams. And I'm not kidding. Jeannie Buss needs to pick up the phone. That's all I've got to say. Bring you out there to LA and help fix that mess. So until next time, everybody, thank you for joining us. And what do we tell everybody to do, Edwin?
Keep balling.
All right, now, take it easy. Love you. Peace.